Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I got started in my business and why you don't need a formal education to get started. I grew up with no money, a high school education at best. I really don't even know how I got out of high school. I started working, at 14 years old, installing floors with my dad. And for me, it was all about, because of the way I grew up, it was about I needed to make money. And so school was never my thing. I wasn't really interested in school and reading and those types of things. And there was nothing really I wanted to go to college for, at least at that time, that I was aware of. So I knew that I could make a certain amount of money if I started, if I learned the flooring trade business. So that's what I started doing at an early age. So I would, get out of school and go help my dad, put floors in. And then when I graduated high school, as soon as I got out of high school, I basically started my own company. I got an account with, Home Depot at the time. I think was my first account, right out of high school. And really that set me off into a totally different path. For me, it was like I had such a passion and desire to win. And I was super clear on that at a very young age. And I think a lot of people today, just because they're not clear on what they want, they have a hard time achieving anything, right? So I was super clear at a young age on what it was that I wanted to do. And all I did was spend my time on that thing. Like I didn't party, I didn't go out and do a lot of things that young people do. I was purely focused on building my business. And so over time, I started adding, people to my team. I got to the point where I had other crews working for me and I was more selling, and then I got out of selling and then I was more managing. And so I just kind of built that over time. So, hey guys, if you ever need anything at all you got to do is text the number below and we'll be there for you. For anyone out here that's, doesn't have an education and doesn't come from money, I'm just telling you firsthand that I didn't have any of that. And today I have an 8-figure business that I hardly do anything with, that pays me every month without question, because I have built a team over time that handles the day-to-day operations of the business. And that took a long time for me to get to that point to where, I wasn't in the day-to-day. Honestly, it was probably about 3 years ago. And the reason that was like that is I wanted to control everything in my business, like most entrepreneurs do, especially when they're small, is they feel like they have to do every task in the company. And if someone else does the thing, it's not going to be good enough. And what I've learned over the years is if you can find people to do 75 to 80% of as good as what you're doing, then it's a win, right? And then it frees your time up. You're able to delegate more, frees your time up to work strategically on the business, which is where you actually grow. So over time, you can actually work less in your business. You work on your business, you'll have more time and you'll make more money. Getting around the right people and understanding that in order for you to run a big business or have a big team, you have to self-develop yourself personally, because if, an A player is not going to come work for a B player or a C player very long, right? So you have to continue to level up, self-develop, become a better leader, constantly be learning and growing, getting around high-level people that can stretch and grow you so that you can then attract people into your business that want to work for you. And creating a vision so big too, to where people want to see themselves winning with inside your organization. It can't just be about you as the owner. You can't be the only one making money. And I think that's a big problem with most small businesses, is that the owner just wants to do everything so he can keep all the money. And it's a hard shift to make, but once you make that shift and you understand that when you find the right people, you empower them, you give them clear direction, and you let them do the thing that you hired them to do, they'll actually a lot of times do it better than if you were doing it yourself, and you'll just free up so much time. So school was not my thing. I didn't enjoy really going to school and reading about, science or history or any of those things. And I think, a lot of people in today's time, they're actually brainwashed that school is the thing they need to go do. And for me, just looking back at it, being 49 years old now, I think that if you're going to go for a specific, career, like being a doctor or a lawyer or something like that, where you actually need the degree, the certifications to say you can do the thing, then I think it makes sense. But for example, in business, the best business, course or class you can take is getting around business owners that are actually doing it. And what I find is there's a lot of people, for example, teaching business in schools or teaching education, but they're not actually doing the thing that they're even teaching. So they're reading a book, taking a test, passing a grade, turning it in, and that gives them the right to go out and do something in the real world. And that just doesn't happen. And that's why you'll find a lot of entrepreneurs, at least all the friends that I know, none of them went to school. and they all make way more money than people that have degrees. So it's not just about money, but my point is you can spend 4 years in the field with someone doing the thing that you're actually wanting to do and get way further ahead, in my opinion, than just going to school, taking just a generic business degree. I'm not saying some of that stuff is not valuable, but I think real world experience, getting around people that are actually doing the thing that you want to do, is the secret to get there so much faster, at least in my experience. A couple lessons that I think key takeaways. Number one, how self-education is key. So again, for me, I'm all about personal growth and personal development. I spend every day listening to podcasts, reading books, studying other people, other successful people. So again, education from that standpoint on pouring into yourself, spending money on yourself to get in other rooms and being around different people. To me, that's the best investment I've ever spent, is just paying to get around people. Cut the check for speed to get in the rooms with people that have already been there and already done the thing you're trying to do, right? So for me, attending events was another one, like going to seminars, any kind of conference, anything that you can do to gain an edge. And it doesn't cost that much money to do it. It's more of a time thing. But a lot of them you do have to pay. So, for me, I would advise everyone to self-invest, 10 to 20% of your earnings, if you can, into self-education, getting around different people. And there's a ton of information online that's for free, right? It's like, I'm watching podcasts, YouTube stuff every day, and it's absolutely free. So, I think people struggle where they get consumed too much information, and I'm guilty of that myself, to where you're just an information overload. And really, it comes down to, again, getting clear on what it is you want. And then once you find something that's educating you on that topic, figure out how to take something away from that, document it, and then figure out how to implement it into your day-to-day life. I think that's the key. There's a lot of people that self-educate themselves, but they never take action on anything. So they don't ever go anywhere, right? So don't be that guy or that girl that just takes in information but never does anything with it. And I see that a lot. So taking calculated risk in your business, you have to take risk in order to make that gain, right? It's like, people that don't want to take risk, they're going to stay small. Sometimes you got to put it all on the line. And the key is this: if you believe in what you're doing and you have faith meaning that you don't know what the outcome's going to be, but you feel it in your heart that it's going to work and it makes sense and you believe in it 100%, then you go all in on it. And there's no plan B for that. When there's a plan B, that means there's safety, right? That means there's a chance that you can go back. And for me, there was no going back. It's all or nothing. And to me, when you put yourself against the wall, knowing that the only way you get out is to figure it out, that's the ones that win. When there's a plan B and you know that there's a little bit of comfort that if this doesn't work, I can go back to doing the thing that I was doing. Most people go back to doing the thing that we're doing because it's just comfortable. They get scared, right? They're like 3 feet from goal of winning, and they pull back because it's taking longer, it costs them more money, and they just stop, right? So taking risks is something that if you want to be an entrepreneur and run your own business, you got to get used to being uncomfortable with taking risk. Otherwise, you will never grow. Okay, next point is learning from your failures, right? And to me, you can't fail until you quit, right? So as long as you keep moving, again, believing in the cause that you're after and having a purpose and mission and what you're trying to accomplish, failures is just opportunities for you to get better. There's a lesson in every failure. And so you need to just understand that you're going to go through these times where it's going to be challenging. You're not going to have all the answers, but sometimes you just got to get started and you got to get on the path, and then the answers will be on the path, right? It's like there's a lot of people, a lot of smart people sit back and they want to try to make everything perfect on paper. And guess what? These guys never start. They're spending 2 years coming up with an idea, and then someone like myself gets an idea and take action the next day. Is a difference of winning and losing, in my opinion, right? I see a lot of smart people. They're so smart, they're stupid. Right? They spend so much time preparing and they never take any action. They just talk about how they're going to do the thing and they don't do it. And so imperfect action is better than perfect non-action. So you just got to get started. Again, if you believe in what you're doing, get started and the path will shape what you need to do next. Because otherwise you're like thinking of all the things you need to do and what can happen if this goes wrong and this goes wrong. And you never go anywhere. Whereas, if I mess up 10 times, I'm going to figure out my path a lot quicker than you spending 2 years trying to figure out what's working. And by the time you figure it out, it's unchanged anyway. So the key is to take action immediately. So the next one is hustle and persistence. This is a big one. And again, a lot of people don't have this, and which is why they don't make it. And I'll go back to really having a true vision, mission, purpose-driven business is really, in my opinion, the only way that you're going to continue to push through when things get difficult, when you lose money, when you're not sleeping well, is because you're purpose driven. If you're just money driven and things go wrong, you're going to figure out how to get out of that and go do something else. So having a purpose, real purpose, and a real why of why you're doing the thing you're doing is how that's going to keep you on path when things get hard. And they're going to get really hard. You're going to go through times where it's rough and you're going to ask yourself, why am I doing this? And again, it just comes back to how bad do you want it? If you want it bad enough and you're not willing to go to a plan B, eventually you will get there. If not, chances are that you won't. And you'll end up going a different direction, or you're going to do something totally different. And that's going to mean, getting up early, staying up late. When I started my business, I didn't have the morning routine that I have today. I wasn't able to work out twice a day that I'm doing now. And I think a big misconception is you see a lot of influencers and they're telling you like they're spending 2 hours on a morning routine. Well, they didn't do that when they started their business. The only reason they have a 2-hour routine is because now they're not in the business. So when I started my business, I didn't get up and cold plunge and sauna and work out and do all these things. Like I rolled out of bed and went to work and started working on the thing that I needed to work on. And that's what you have to do when you're starting a company. So there's a big misconception, and people are seeing social media and everybody doing all these crazy things. You're not at that point yet. Like you need a team and you need a business that's running without you, in my opinion, to have all these fancy routines and spend a half a day, taking care of yourself, right? It's like when you're starting, you got to grind. You're going to be working a lot of hours. You're going to be working. There was times where I worked 24 hours straight. I was in the office with the same clothes when everybody else came in. Like that's a real story. And this is what I worked at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning every night to build my business for 20 plus years, almost 30 years, to get to the point that I'm at now, to where I do have a little time. I do have a lot of flexibility, but I almost killed myself to get to this point. And so if you're not willing to almost die for the thing that you're doing, you're gonna have a hard time succeeding long term. That's why most businesses don't last. But getting up early, staying up late, when you care about something so much, it doesn't seem like work. That's all you want to do, and all you think about is the thing that you're trying to do. That's obsession. And in order for anyone to be super successful, the people that are super successful, they're obsessive. They're not 8 to 5, taking the weekends off. Like that stuff does not work when you're building a business. I don't know anyone that's built a business taking that route. When you build a team and you got a business running, you got systems and all that in place, well then, yeah, you can work less hours and you can take weekends off. But if you're starting, you need to be willing to grind all the time, and you can't have any other distractions. You're probably not going to have friends. I didn't have any friends hardly. And the ones I did, they did the same thing I did. We worked all the time. So you're going to have to sacrifice some of these things that most people want to live, right? And they want to enjoy all these things. But in 30 years, they'll be miserable because they'll have nothing, a lot of them, right? They had fun along the way, and then they wake up 30 years later and they have no financial freedom, they have no security, and now they're old and they're out of shape. So I don't want to be that person. I would rather sacrifice a little today to make sure I'm prepared tomorrow. But that's me. That's, everybody's different. That's just a path that I went on. But again, if you're trying to grow anything big, be prepared to just almost kill yourself to get there, because that's what it's going to take. And you need to be obsessed. If you're doing it just for the money, you're probably not going to make it. You need to be obsessed about the thing that you're doing. Another good one is like learning from your mistakes, right? So there's going to be mistakes you're going to make in your business. And the key is you want to learn from those mistakes. You don't want to keep having the same mistake happen over and over again every year and not being able to how to solve that problem, right? That's how you'll go out of business. But every time you make a mistake, as long as you learn from that and figure out how not to do it again, that's actually how you grow your business. And the same with your team involved. Like if people make mistakes, it's okay. A lot of time mistakes are good because it tells you the path, the step that you need to take next to clear the path to where you're wanting to go, actually. So like no one gets started and it just works out perfectly. It never happens that way. So take every obstacle, every lesson, and just embrace that and know that, anytime there's a problem or a mistake in the business, you learn from that. Turn that into an opportunity to get better. Create a process or a system to make sure that doesn't happen again. So, hey guys, to wrap this up, I just want to clarify a few things. You don't need education to be successful at all, right? What you need is to be clear about what it is you want to do, be willing to go all in, have no plan B, and be completely obsessed with what you're trying to accomplish, and then get around people that are living the way that you want to live, and keep your circle tight around people that are only living that way and like cut everything else out. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If my story resonates with you, or if you're ready to take control of your success without relying on traditional education, please hit that like button, subscribe for more insights, and share this video with anyone who needs to hear that success is built on drive and determination, not just a degree. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries, embrace your own learning journey, and remember, your success is in your own hands. I'll see you in the next video.